retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket. With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show in your pocket.
Fish Stripes Live, presented by Loop. I'm your host, Noah Berger. Yes, I'm allowed to host when it's not Jeopardy. I didn't make the rules. I'm joined by the usual panel of guests. We have Kevin Barral, we have Eli Sussman, the faceless Alex Carver, and Isaac Azut. We may be joined later on by Brent Coscuela and Daniel Rodriguez, who are in the press box. Brent is making his press box debut today. As usual, we will go through we will recap the previous series against the New York Metropolitans, goes through some of the latest news and rumors. AAA intro, really? And we will get you set up for the series against the Colorado Rockies.
No, you misinterpreted this. This is you meant A plus plus plus.
Oh,
I thought he meant the AAA intro.
No, I think he meant like A plus plus plus, and instead duplicated the A. But I know what you were trying to say, fans. 31. We appreciate this.
I still think he means AAA.
I think so too.
Confirm it to us, Phantom.
All right. So what is there to talk about the Mets series? I have it written down as yikes, close, Gerard, yikes, Gerard.
Well, we could start off by Eli. For some reason, always gets the predictions right, at least for the MVP. Like Francisco Lindor, who was hitting 240 something before this series, just goes off and just hits the most clutch homers. We saw Jimmy Alcabonis, I guess. Sandy was still really, really good, and he's still the best pitcher in the MLB. And then Gerard, he had an incredible debut. We spoke about that after the game on Spaces. So there's not much more to say about this Mets series. I mean, we could say season's over. That's the other one I'll say. If they would have won yesterday, I would have held 1% hope. But no, it's over. This was the series that defined them going forward into that trade deadline. And I think I know where they're going with buying or selling.
Yeah, but don't poo-poo that grand slam by Gerard. I think that was pretty high up the top of the list in terms of individual memorable moments. Not just hitting a home run or a grand slam in his debut, but actually doing it in a close game and flipping the game around. That was awesome. We were very high on this guy, of course, prior to his call-up. It was annoying the first couple of days that he was on the roster but didn't play at all. Like, he didn't start the first two games, but he didn't even play off the bench. That is unusual when you call up a actual prospect for a couple of days and don't use him whatsoever. So he, to his credit, he stayed locked in, he stayed focused, and not just a home run, as we pointed out as well, the fact that he used the opposite field. And that, I think this was touched on during the Spaces that Alex hosted as well, about him showing power to all fields. That's pretty awesome. So for the near-term future, the fact that at this moment we're in an awkward space. We don't have the lineups for tonight in the game that's about to start, and we don't even for sure know the roster yet. I mean, we suspect maybe that's what the holdup is, but it seems that at least for the near-term future, he's going to be here while the Jesuses are sidelined and recovering.
So one thing I will say about Gerard not playing those first two games, both him and Lewin were without their own equipment. They still are without their own equipment. Gerard was using Jazz's bat. Maybe that's why he went opposite field for the grand slam. Lewin was using a brand new glove that was delivered the day of the game he started, that was being beaten in the tunnel by Keith Johnson to break it in. They don't have their equipment, so maybe that's just benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's why Gerard wasn't playing those first two games. But who knows?
Oh, I wasn't making that connection.
I was.
Maybe, potentially. I don't know.
But yeah, the fact that go ahead.
No, just to mention it on him. It's refreshing to see a prospect get called up and immediately perform as he did in this series. As Eli said, I was kind of frustrated that, and I was kind of falling into the trap that like they're going to do it again. They're going to call up a prospect and sit him on the bench for a week and a half, and he's not going to play like they did with Lewin Diaz last year, like they did with Jose Devers last year. And they finally play him, and he doesn't disappoint. So the things that stand out to me about him is, like Eli said, the ability to work all fields. Didn't always have it. Back in 2019, Mattingly has said himself, he goes, this guy's power is off the charts. The only thing he needs to do is work the opposite field more. And he's definitely done that a lot better this year. Another thing to mention on him is in that grand slam at bat, he laid off multiple pitches. I would say 2 of the pitches that he laid off are pitches that he swings at in previous years. The 3-1 pitch was probably a ball, very borderline, definitely probably isn't a strike by some umpires. And he gets right back in and gets his pitch and goes opposite field. So, like I said, in years past, a couple of those pitches in that at bat, definitely the 3-1 is a pitch that he swings at. I don't think it was a strike, whatever. It worked out. And then a couple pitches earlier in the at bat as well. I definitely think are pitches that he would swing at, especially pitches up. He kind of struggled in years past against elevated stuff, and he's laying off. So he's waiting for his pitch. He's getting it, and he's driving it. That's all you can ask for a player of this caliber. And then, like I said, he's not striking out. He has 8 at-bats and 1 strikeout. So it's been a ton of hard contact. It's a lot of ground ball out so far, but brand new to Major League Baseball, and you're making contact, and you're hitting a grand slam. Great signs. Love it from ERR. Really good debut. Really good 2 games.
Any thoughts from you, Isaac? You were there for the first 2 games, am I correct?
I was there Friday and Saturday. I was there on Sunday as a fan. And Alex mentioned what I was about to, just the fact that he struck out once, in those 8 at-bats, and his groundouts, a lot of them did, came off the bat very hard. For the first half of that game, of his first, where he hit the grand slam, he had the hardest exit velocity of both teams, who had 104 miles an hour. So that was good to see. And yeah, Sandy, I was there as a fan, like I said, on Sunday, and Sandy just did his thing. Wow, against a tough Mets lineup that have just been, they hit Pablo and all these, relievers pretty hard. It was great to see Sandy in person like that as a fan. I've usually been covering him when he starts, but there to sit there behind the Marlins dugout, they really admire that ace.
And he finally got some run support thanks to your R.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else to talk about from that series? I don't think there's much. Right?
You did touch on Sandy. Just again, we can't take it for granted going 8 innings, even though he is averaging 8 innings a start over his last 8 starts. That doesn't mean we should take it for granted. Nobody does that. I've gone through all the stats about how people don't need convincing that he is right now the most valuable pitcher in the National League this season, with how he is almost single-handedly propping up the team. You mentioned the run support. He had to wait until the 7th inning to get that. The vast majority of other pitchers in this league are just not even in the game by that point. So it is just mind-boggling how good he has been. This has been the absolute – anybody that was optimistic about him this year, this is even exceeding those expectations. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Just single-handedly keeping the team even within shouting distance of the wild card race. I could take this opportunity to show the wild card standings as we do, even though the team keeps sinking farther and farther. I think it should be reminded just as we head into the series that the Rockies are ahead of them by percentage points. The dysfunctional Rockies. People call the Rockies the most dysfunctional franchise in the league right now, and even they are percentage points ahead of the Marlins at this particular moment. But without Sandy, they wouldn't even appear on this graphic. Miami would be underneath our faces. We wouldn't be able to even display the standings without Sandy. He's incredible.
Something else to call out. I'll call out one more guy in this series. I think it was a slight step back for Braxton. Too much hard contact against him. Did have 8 groundouts, but a lot of hard contact. This is a good lineup, or that Mets lineup is very good. So sucks to see a step back, but I think he's going to be all right. I still like what I see out of his slider. It's crazy. But I just don't think he had his best command. A lot of groundouts, but also 4 fly balls. And like I said, a lot of hard contact and 3 runs, right? So yeah, he didn't last very long, only threw 72 pitches and they took him out. So definitely going to need a bounce back start next time he goes, but I think he's going to be okay. I just don't think the command was very good against a really good lineup, but a guy to call out that was good and continues to be good. Eli, and we talk about voting for the All-Star game. I really wish there was a way to vote for a super utility player to get into the All-Star game, like add that spot, because John Birdie is insane. Okay. He's hitting 281 and has 18 stolen bases in 57 games, which it's crazy. He just keeps hitting. He keeps getting called upon on multiple spots and just gets it done with the bat. Not a lot of home run power or anything like that, but when you can turn anything into at least a double with stolen bases, that's all you need. That guy's awesome. I love John Birdie, man. I will never, ever have anything bad to say about Birdie Ball. He's great. I hope he stays for a long time as a super utility.
Trade value going up, by the way. His trade value is going up.
I don't want to hear about trade value. I just don't want to hear about it. And yes, I see you, Pete. No, we're not talking about trading Uriar. It's not a conversation.
Hey, well, we want to put it on the screen just to acknowledge. Thank you for stopping by, Peter Pratt of Locked On Marlins. Be sure to check out his stuff as well here on YouTube and on wherever you get your podcasts.
We have to get you on soon, Peter. We have to get you on soon.
But this came up on past streams, so we won't go into it again. But the fact that there's just a lot of corner outfielders, first baseman, DHs in this organization. Something's got to give eventually, and we expect something to give between now and August 2nd when the deadline comes up. So we'll see what direction they go. It obviously depends who's healthy and what offers are out there for people.
Two things I want to get in. I just want to touch on the Mets series before we move on to the injury news. Jimmy Yankobonis came up. He's looking great. Always a big fan of Jimmy Yankobonis. They left a lot of guys on base in the first and the last game. They had 12 guys left on base in the first game, 10 in the last game. You can't do that if you want to win Major League Baseball games. Now, for the injury news, there's a lot of it. It's going to take a second to digest. Put it up on screen so I can read it.
Yeah.
Edward Cabrera and Max Meyer will be appearing tomorrow for Jacksonville. Sixto has thrown a 20-pitch side
session, yeah.
Side
okay.
session
I was about to
tomorrow.
say.
Andy and Wendell will play in rehab games later this week. I thought they said that last week. Bender is playing catch. Holloway is with Jupiter tomorrow. Luzardo began a throwing program. That's to me the best news that on this entire thing. Poteet threw a 20-pitch bullpen today, and the saddest news of them all: Peyton Henry, right thumb surgery. Poor guy.
Yeah, so Edward and Mac ready for Jacksonville soon. I think that's got to be a little bit bigger just because Luzardo is ways away. You'd think just going at least a couple months without throwing a baseball. Forearm is a tough diagnosis, like Alex called, when it happened. But Edward and Max are ready to be, back, especially Edward, because I think Max was already, getting to that point. I think he had a rehab in Jupiter. Edward already be back to Jacksonville is big. And then, like you said, just Holloway closing in. It looks like Miami will have a lot of, of depth back in the next month or so, right around the trade deadline. So it's gonna be awkward timing for Miami if they remain somewhat 8.5 games or less in the.
And you mentioned, and Noah, you mentioned the Andy and Wendell last week. It was mentioned. You say last week because Kim Eng is the one who I guess, quote unquote, broke that news on the Bally Sports interview, which we didn't learn too much about the team itself, but that was probably the biggest thing we got out of that. I'll leave the interview at that because I'm not gonna get into that.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see. I'm probably the highest on Jordan Holloway out of our whole group. I'm curious to see exactly how they use him in this latest rehab appearance. I'm kind of punting on the idea of him as a starter. I'd actually like to see it.
I was going to ask because at the beginning of the season, you're like, this guy's the fourth best starting pitcher on the team. That was like your bold prediction. I'm like, whoa, this guy.
And as it turns out, that would not be saying much, right? Because there really has not been a whole lot of pitching depth behind Sandy and Pablo. Anyway, when it comes to Holloway, I suspect that they're just prepping him to be the long man in this bullpen in the way that he was kind of used at times last year. He went 2 innings each of his last other rehab appearances. And if that is the case, and if he does fine in a couple innings for Jupiter tomorrow, I don't see why he can't rejoin the Major League bullpen this weekend as part of their pen. We've been complaining about this soft underbelly of this pen, whether it's Lewis Head or Tommy Nance at the moment. And they're not the only ones. You could take your pick of guys that aren't getting the job done. Holloway's stuff is really great. Like more so than anything in the big leagues last year, he just showed this ability to avoid hard contact. That's like the most important thing in high leverage relief is you're not going to allow crooked numbers if people can't square up the ball against you. I'm still high on him. And he is a guy that the clock is ticking in terms of him as a development project. Like they just need to see if he could get outs in the big leagues in any sort of role. One other thing, I don't know if people notice this, but the rule finally went into effect that you're not allowed to carry more than 13 pitchers on the active roster at any one time. which means that your bullpen needs a traditional long man. For the Marlins at the start of this year, that was Cody Poteet. As we could see from here, he's still a few weeks away from coming back, even if things go right. So Holloway, in the meantime, he would be the ideal candidate for that. They are missing that right now. I think Holloway still has pretty good upside compared to their current options.
I can tell you one guy on
this on what they're doing with rehab. And by the way, props to Christina De Nicola on fitting all of this into a tweet. 280 characters. That's pretty impressive. I wonder how many times Daniel or Jason had to repeat this for them to get it all. Probably a couple, because it's definitely a lot. Anyways, something to call out on what they're doing with rehab. Of course, as you read here, Edward and Max tomorrow with Jacksonville, you figure probably 2-3 innings for both of them, I would say. And then same thing for Holloway. And both of these teams are playing literally miles away. Jupiter is in Daytona Beach against Tortugas, and Jacksonville is at home playing against the Durham Bulls. So it's interesting to me that Holloway definitely, because you need to get enough innings for these guys, right? So to say that Holloway is getting multiple innings isn't necessarily your signifier that they're keeping him as a starter, but they definitely still want this guy to work multiple innings for sure. So I don't understand. I guess you could use him as the long man, but I really, really think that this guy is the best when he's going single innings and throwing as hard as he can. Honestly, I really do. When he's throwing that 97, 98 mile an hour fastball instead of 94, 95, when he goes multiple innings, he slows it down. We know that. I think that's his best value to the team is as a late inning reliever. But if they want to use him as a long man, they still think he could do it. Even after Tommy John, I think he had, right? So props to him, but I just don't see it. I think he's better as a single inning guy. But we'll see where they go.
I think as long as he's in the bullpen, I think that's where they just have to make that decision. No more starting pitcher. I'm with you, Alex. I'm definitely for it. Whether it's long man or a single eighth.
It's a step in the right direction. Yeah, step in the right direction. But I think his best value to the team is single inning. But as long as he's not in the rotation, because I don't think he's a rotational starter that can be counted on to go 6 innings or 5 even. I think, yeah, you're right, Isaac. I agree with you. He in the bullpen is a step in the right direction for me.
I think we'll see Holloway kind of enter that role that Poteet had at the start of the season, especially now with Poteet out for a little bit. Holloway's closing in. We may see him in that type of role, but did we mention the Payne Henry injury? I think we did. This could actually get a leeway this could be the time for McIntosh to make his way to AAA now, because your catcher is a bad defensive Lorenzo Quintana and Santiago Chavez, who is not a good prospect. So maybe McIntosh gets that call up, and he should, because if they want to have a good defensive catcher who could hit as well, McIntosh is your guy, and he definitely deserves that AAA call up with how he's been playing this season, and probably the best catcher in the system at the moment. I mean, if you value Joe Mack higher, but I don't at the moment because the guy's injured at the same time. But yeah, McIntosh needs that call up to AAA, and maybe one of the low A guys moves up to AA.
Not to go back really quick, but Meyer and Cabrera. Meyer did already have one rehab start 5 days ago, correct?
Yeah, it was like 4 innings. Yeah.
Okay, so you think he's maybe 4 or 5 innings this time around? Can we, with the problems that this big league rotation has, can we, see him sort of expedited to the big leagues now that, they'll probably want him to have at least 2 to 3 starts in Jacksonville. But after that, could we see him in, mid-July?
If Daniel Castano keeps pitching like he did in Philly.
Okay.
No, he's not. He's not going to, no offense to Daniel Castano. He's a good guy. He's one of the nicer guys in there. He's not going to pitch like he did today.
For the moment, a 0.00 ERA.
And
but with a loss. But with a loss, too.
Yes. Yeah. He had one unearned run that I think he must have been on the mounds in extra innings for one of the games early in the year.
That was in the Seattle game.
Yeah, right. I think that's what it was. So I absolutely, I would be. They just don't really have any excuse for holding Meyer back anymore. If he is, they're going to be judging by the results. He's going to need results in these couple Jacksonville outings, but as long as he does, there's really nothing holding him back, either from in place of Garrett, in case of Castano, one of the two, even Rod. I mean, we were encouraged by. We didn't mention Rogers. The underlying stuff that Rogers did yesterday, I was kind of happy with. It was a career high in getting swinging strikes. It's just that he wasn't necessarily getting them at the opportune times. He was hurt by a few things outside of his control. So that was encouraging, even though it was not actually effective, and even though the final numbers didn't look super pretty. So I think that that's not a surprise that he is safe in this rotation for the near-term future. Outside of that, Meyer is not being blocked, certainly, if they feel that if he's ready. And a lot of us thought that he was ready a month and a half ago, right before that injury started affecting his results and eventually putting him on the IL. Hope to see him very soon.
And with Rogers, we know that he can make these type of starts. It's just now with this season, especially, can he build off of that? Can he stay consistent? That's something we haven't seen yet from Rogers. We saw him make that start against the Nats, and then we saw him get blown up in Philly. Now can he make that start that he made against New York, which was pretty good? And and I was going to mention the Super 2 deadline right after, but yeah, right. Just can he make that start against?
I want to get people on the same page about the Super 2 deadline. It's regarding eligibility for arbitration a few years down the road. So this just means that now that has passed, they don't have to worry about paying Meyer much money for the next several years. And it only applies to super top prospects, guys that you feel really confident being like everyday starting caliber players. And Meyer does fit into that category. So it was suspected that one reason why they were holding him back was because of that deadline. They obviously could not admit that. And now at this point, that excuse is gone, because even if he spends the rest of the season up in the majors, he's not going to have enough service time to reach that.
So before we get into the loop break and get into the Rocky series, I want to pose a question to the panel along the lines of players being blocked by other players. What in the world happens to this roster when Joey Wendell, Brian Anderson, Jesus Aguilar, and Jesus Sanchez are all back?
Well, I think we should start with first Joey Wendell and Brian Anderson. Those guys are the closest to come back. What happens there? Well, Astudillos probably goes back to AAA. Or, well, Astudillos is a different case because I don't think he has any options. So he would leave the org.
He has one.
Well,
we may say goodbye to Luke Williams.
Right. Luke Williams will go down. Yeah, that's it. That's the move.
Yeah, I would say, definitely what Alex said. Luke Williams, you'd think Williams, Astudillo, as long as Fortes and Stallings are both fine, and then you'd have to think maybe one up either Brian De La Cruz, or they'd probably have to send down Lewin Diaz. Looking at the roster as constructed, Brian De La Cruz, Brian Anderson can play some outfield. It would just limit them to not having that backup center fielder, which they're going to need. With Jesus out there, they like having Brian De La Cruz, who, by the way, isn't
he's not doing well lately.
Isn't exactly Jim Edmonds out there in center field either. So I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not sure. I don't think we've seen Luke Williams playing in center field yet. But yeah, you'd have to think that De La Cruz's days might be numbered because he just hasn't been playing well on either side of the ball. I've not been a fan. And yeah, I think those are the three guys that are definitely at risk when Wendell and Anderson come back, especially since, Anderson can't play the corner outfield spot as well.
And we look at the pitching, we mentioned Meyer, Holloway, all those guys that may come back soon. Edward, we may have to look at some guys in the bullpen to get, either down or out of here. Tommy Nance has not been good. Lewis Head has not been good. Dylan Floro has not been good. Those are the three guys that come out to,
Floro's been fine the last two times. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
He's been okay, but I'd rather DFA. I'd rather get rid of Nance or Head before get rid of, Dylan Floro, who had a good 2021. So that's pretty much where I look at it from that bullpen. Is from the rotation, no one's going down unless Castano just has a blow-up start this time around and Max Meyer's ready to go. And with Meyer, he's not even on the 40-man, so you have to add him on there, meaning someone has to get removed.
But we were talking about this right before going on air. The Marlins do have an opening on their 40-man at this particular moment.
They have 39 guys on the 40-man right now.
Yeah.
Okay, well then.
I will point out, Castano's next start lines up to be that Sunday against what is looking to be Max Scherzer.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, could we get a Max on Max?
No.
Or is that too soon? And
no,
am I too delusional?
That's way too soon. But something I'm curious in getting Eli, you guys' opinion. Who's the higher floor lefty in this rotation? Is it Braxton or is it Castano? Braxton has a better curveball. He's got the better stuff, better swing and miss. Castano has just shown, a little bit more in the majors. So who's the favorite of those two lefties, of those two low ceiling guys?
With the added slider, it's Braxton Garrett.
Yeah.
Sure. And I love Italian Stallion. You guys know that. I love that guy. He's great. But yeah, both. I mean, Castano is probably more swingman / long reliever in a full healthy Marlins rotation, or maybe not even on the major league roster at this point.
Not even, yeah.
Especially when Poteet is healthy, that has to be your long reliever. And now with what they're doing with Holloway, maybe he's the long reliever even without Poteet. So I really don't think on a fully healthy Marlins team he has a spot, but he could be like a replacement level 5th starter, 4th starter, maybe on a bad team. But Braxton, with that added slider, when he has his command, even though he only throws 91, 92, topping at 93, that slider makes him a different pitcher. So it's definitely Braxton has a higher ceiling guy for sure.
And I don't remember him throwing that sinker quite as often, as he has this
No, he
season.
didn't.
So,
One more thing to mention. I don't want to hurt Noah too bad, but I just have to mention it. Brian De La Cruz in the month
He's not
of
been
June
good. I know he has not been good.
is 17 games with a 168 batting average. So it's
He
pretty
needs
bad.
a trip down to the AAA.
And he single-handedly gave Starling Marte a triple in Citi Field. That was just a very bizarre route to the ball. And I wasn't able to watch any of the Monday game. I was on a flight literally from 1 to 4 during the whole freaking game. But
That's bad planning on your part.
I saw blame my father. But I've heard bad defense from Luke Williams from center field. So I think they need to work on that. They really do miss Jesus Sanchez. I think they would have split that series if they had Jesus Sanchez for all 4 games, 100%.
Kevin, are you seeing what I'm seeing?
No, I thought I was looking at some.
No,
I
that's
was seeing
silly. That they do that. That's actually there every game. It should be with our research tool. The StatCast, even before the game starts, well in advance of the game, StatCast is hooked up on the field, and the players actually you can actually track the players.
And the
even
umpires
before the game
Are
starts.
we looking at
That's
practice
not what
exit
I'm talking
velocities or
about. I'm
something?
talking about who they have as the pitcher to start the game there.
That is weird.
Yeah, that's what caught me off guard.
Don't confuse people.
Wait, why? What's wrong on the research tool?
Just go look
It's there. It says Castano and Feltner.
Let's take
in
a
the
break.
live game part. We still don't have a lineup, which is honestly at this point ridiculous because we are now almost within an hour. We are within an hour of first pitch.
Very unusual.
Very, very unusual.
I see it now.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good pitching matchup. All right, let's go into a loop break. Why not?
All right, let's do a loop break, and then we'll talk about the imaginary lineup that we have tonight for the Colorado Rockies.
Why bother with empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket? With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show in your pocket.
All right. Someone make up a lineup. Let's go.
Well, we could talk about the All-Star thing. I don't know why we didn't have that lined up already as a topic. That's kind of spicy.
Oh, right.
That's cool, isn't it? That Jazz is the leading vote getter right now for National League second baseman. And you like his chances at least of advancing to the next rounds in the voting. And just to give everybody a refresher, this is all the current vote leaders at every position on both sides, AL and NL.
Yeah, and I mentioned this on Twitter actually, and with Jazz, leading, one, you could argue that he is the most deserving for second baseman, but I think also this is the first time that a Marlins player has really benefited from the fan vote. Most times they have deserving players like Stanton, like an Ozuna, and they just don't get the the national attention to get the votes to be a starter. But Jazz is that one player who will get the national attention every time opposing media is here. They want to talk to Jazz. They write about Jazz. And Jazz usually does something swell on the field. So this could be...
Ooh, we have a lineup.
Lineup.
Breaking news. And wait, is there no Jazz in here? There's no Jazz.
Are you serious? I picked him to hit a home run today.
Maybe we'll get that posted for people.
What in the world?
You want to read it for people, Noah?
All right.
Leading
off, playing second base, John Birdie. First base, Garrett Cooper. Left field, Jorge Soler. Designated hitter Jesus Aguilar. I guess he's back.
Miguel Rojas playing third?
No.
And right, Avisel Garcia and right. Jesus Sanchez in center. Miguel Rojas at shortstop. Williams Astudillo at third and Nick Fortes at catcher.
So Yarar and Lewin go back down. That's what we expect then, right? Or is it us? Oh, Astudillo's in. I was about to say he's going down.
Oh, wow, the research tool has Cooper in center, Rojas at third, Astudillo at short.
Bro, what?
Oh. Are you looking at the research tool? Look at the app. This is an interesting lineup. I will say we're betting roster moves because now we assume Yarar and Lewin go down, but maybe it's Luke Williams since he's not even there. But we'll see. Very interesting roster.
Aguilar the DH.
coming up.
Jesus Sanchez is back. Okay, wow. You know what? I'm sorry. And both. Oof, shit.
Yeah, they're both no longer on the roster.
So
Gerard
wow,
and,
I joked around
Lewin.
with Mr. Fish on the Farm prior to the stream, and it looks like Gerard, I would assume, which would really sting. Makes no sense at this point. These guys don't know what they're doing, but you think Gerard and Lewin, unless they go the smart route and send out one of the guys that we talked about.
They're going back to Charlotte to find their missing equipment.
Oh, that sucks too. By the way, what we're talking right now is what we usually do in our group chat. This is live.
Those are great positions. None of them.
What in the world?
Again, so just to be clear, the big takeaway is that no COVID for Sanchez and Aguilar. They're back after about 4 days.
Probably the test took a while to get back to them. That's what I can know.
And now Gerard and Lewin are missing in action. So
that explains why this was so late coming out.
What is Daniel's job if they're not even getting, like, they need the information now, him and Brent? That's a really weird lineup.
Yeah. If it is true, of course, this is still pending. We don't know for sure. We're just making educated guesses about who's going down. But it looks to be the fact that Gerard, Encarnacion, and Lewin Diaz will probably go down unless they DFA Luke Williams or do something else. De La Cruz probably not. So, it sucks. It really does. I hate to see guys come up and get pushed out by these veteran players. Veteran player and Aggie, and then Jesus, of course, you need to start in center field, as we mentioned before. So, yeah, I'll just go back to it. Inactivity in the offseason, not trading these veteran guys. And as he proved, he has nothing left to prove in terms of Gerard and Lewin. They have nothing left to prove in minor league baseball. You saw that in this Mets series, and they'll probably be back down in AAA. So I can't say it enough. I hate when prospects are blocked. And those guys definitely are probably the most blocked prospects right now in the system, definitely, and some of the most blocked in Major League Baseball.
That answers my question before the loop break. What happens when those two come back?
That's the thing.
We don't know yet, though. We don't know.
Yeah. Here you go. Daniel's at the park.
They're not listed on the active roster anymore.
Daniel, get your ass down to the field and find out what's going on.
Hey,
lineup up. The lineup is up. Lineup is up.
Yeah, we know.
We're aware we've already been freaking out for the last 5 minutes.
Astudillo, I knew Astudillo was playing. He was raking at BP. He was hitting bombs, and he looked like he was about to play. Stallings wasn't dressed up. You could tell he wasn't going to play. It's a nice lineup. Well,
so do you know the roster moves yet or no?
The roster moves? No. All we got was the what was that? Like 2-page injury report, and really that was it. But
nothing.
I don't think so. Maybe they asked it while me coming here. I don't think we roster moved just yet.
I assume then that Lewin and Gerard going to the Maxi squad.
We have no
idea. This lineup stinks. I'm looking at the site right now. No Jazz.
They're at home. No,
well, I couldn't tell. I thought that said Jazz.
There's no taxi squad at home.
It goes Birdie, Cooper, Soler.
We already read it out. My question is, by the way, I'm looking at the research tool right now, and Gerard and Lewin are no longer listed on the playing roster. So I think that's the corresponding moves here. Again, we'll wait for official word. But yeah, there's your lineups. On the Colorado side, we haven't even gotten into that. Connor Joe leads off and plays left field. Jonathan Daza in center field. Charlie Blackmon is the DH. CJ Crone first base. Brendan Rodgers at second. Randall Grichuk in right field. Ryan McMahon at third. Jose Iglesias at shortstop. And Brian Servin is the catcher.
Yeah, so to go off of what what's his name? Noah just said, yeah, go on the MLB roster as well. Gerard was just there. He's off. Lewin Diaz was just there. He's off. Luke Williams is still there. Astudillo obviously is in the lineup. Yacobonis, all pitchers in the bullpen are still there. So it seems to be 2 for 2. Jesus Aguilar and Jesus Sanchez for Lewin and Gerard. They go down to AAA, which they can't keep doing this forever, but this is what they're going to do. This is what they're stuck with. But that is the confirmed move until it gets officially official. That is what the move is, which just stinks.
Yeah. Ultimately, I guess it's good for the Jesuses that they didn't get sick. it was very awkward. The fact that they were gone for 4 days.
Yeah.
Made you feel
I
like
have the moves.
you know what has the moves? Or they?
If you look on the transactions page on the MLB website, it says that Uriar and Lewin were optioned to Jacksonville, and the Jesuses were activated.
Yep.
There we have it.
Option Gerard and Lewin.
So
All right,
that's Uriar now is down
Now
to
the only thing
one
we're waiting
option, and Lewin, that was his last option.
Now I can't. Now I don't have any interviews for him tomorrow.
Because they were getting BP right here. Gerard was getting BP up until the end, and now you're saying that he's getting the option down.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall.
And Daniel, did Jazz take BP?
Yeah.
Jazz took BP. He was there in the beginning, getting defensive drills. I thought he was going to play, but a little surprised to see him not in the lineup against the Rockies.
Yeah, especially since the Freeland is pitching on Thursday at lefty. You think that they would not start him that day, not bench him against, this guy Feltner, who's been kind of good, but not really. Huh, interesting.
Yeah, it sucks.
Let me ask you guys, what do you guys prefer? Do you guys prefer Fortes or Stallings?
Right now,
how do you guys?
I prefer Fortes.
Other than that little stretch, 2-week stretch where he even discussed a change in stance, a change in foot into the box. Stallings has been really bad before and after that little 2-week stretch. I think it was in the middle of May where he was hitting 300. His batting average got up all the way to 250, 260, and we thought, okay, if he does this the rest of the year, great. But he has just really come back to earth, and he's under the Mendoza line, if I'm not mistaken. And Fortes has hit. Obviously, there's something to be desired with him defensively, but he's good enough to where, hey, if he's a better bat, this is what they're missing. So, and also, I think they trust him better with the younger pitchers.
With Fortes, we saw this last year towards the end. I mean, the guy was raking. I saw his first homer. Isaac was there as well. The guy just kept it going. He was consistent and comes up from AAA and he's raking. And the defense very much improved because I think it was that third game against Philly with Castano pitching, coincidentally, that
he's putting on a defensive clinic.
Yeah, as Noah mentioned, the guy was good. I mean, this is a guy that they really have to give a good look at giving a starting role in 2023 because Stallings won't be very young for the rest of his career. He's not young right now, but he won't be. He's going to go on the decline. Let's keep it like that. We don't know why no Jazz. But yeah, Fortes needs a good look at the starting catch-up spot in 2023. And now you guys see why everyone said Fortes over Payne Henry at the start of spring training and throughout all of spring training, why we were also shocked that it was Henry over Fortes. They got offense in Fortes, and now they're getting pretty good defense as well. So Fortes has been the whole package, and he definitely needs to stay on this major league roster.
And he has
when Henry comes back.
And Fortes has the history with all these young pitchers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Every single one of them after they've started with Fortes catching has mentioned the fact that Fortes caught them in AAA or AA, and so they are used to him behind the plate. So that I forget the mindset of having your normal catcher behind the plate. It makes a huge difference. So you'll be seeing a lot of him with these guys in the rotation.
Should we be getting predictions from Daniel and Brent before they have to attend to the game itself?
Yes, we should.
Okay. Are you listening to us?
Right.
Yeah, he's there.
So, Brent, your predictions, series MVP, and who do you got winning? The whole series.
I got the Marlins taking 2-1 because the Rockies aren't very good on the road.
2 out of 3, bud. 2 out of 3.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm going Astudillo for series MVP. How he took his
Yeah, he had an
today.
insane. Everyone was like a home run. He had the most insane BP of history.
I better see that tomorrow then.
For me, I'm going with Brent 2-1. I think the Rockies are going to get it done. The pitching matchups favor the Marlins, and I think my series MVP. I don't think I have guts to take Astudillo, so I'm going to go a little safe. I'll go with Garrett Cooper.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if all pitching matchups favor Miami.
Yeah, I was going to say Garrett.
This one doesn't favor them.
And Castano favor. All right.
So I think maybe they all do favor Miami.
I have favor in Castano tonight. I think he's going to go home, maybe replicate what he did last time, and then I think Pablo just going to dominate the Rockies.
Besides the 496-foot bomb, Ryan Feltner kind of did dominate the Marlins. Just want to keep that in mind. But we'll leave it at that. I'll show you guys my prediction.
All right. Astudillo MVP. Book it.
Alrighty, let's keep it.
All right, that was our press box report from Daniel and Brent. Brent's making his press box debut today, so good luck to him. Daniel, he's been there forever. Who we got on the mound? We got the Italian Stallion versus Ryan Feltner. Daniel Castano is riding a 0.00 ERA with the smallest sample size known to man, but I am a big fan of small sample sizes, so I am going to ride this until it dies.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Castano tonight against the Rockies?
A different type of lineup than he faced in Philadelphia for sure. You know, they have a lot of lefties, you know, Schwarber with Harper. But so does this Rockies team. And it's going to be definitely a less difficult, you know, outing for him, you'd think, in Marlins Park, Lone Depot Park, compared to Citizens Bank. Not exactly the same firepower that Philadelphia has. And like you mentioned the lineup before, you know, you just got to worry about a couple guys. Chuck Nasty, you got to worry about CJ Cron always. Chuck Nasty's a lefty, so you'd think that, you know, Castano has him. But yeah, you would think that Castano would succeed a little bit more. And you know, you can't succeed more than he did in Philadelphia, but you think he's up for a good start today.
Yeah, this cutter is a gross pitch for him. Really good pitch for him. I really like it. He's throwing it 49% of the time, and why not? Because the pitch is really good. Gets a lot of ground balls. Gets some whiffs on it as well. You know, we talk about Braxton bringing in the slider, and yes, I do still will stick by what I said before, that I like Braxton better as a ceiling pitcher. But man, this is something that he has not had in the past, this cutter, and now he has it in abundance, and it's a great pitch for him. So that's what to look at, is how much he uses that. We figure it's going to be a lot. He's only throwing his four-seamer 11% of the time this year. So that cutter is now his primary pitch, and it's a damn good one. So yeah, I like Castano. As long as he's controlling and commanding and lower in the zone, he's going to be okay. You saw a couple pitches in the highlight that Eli showed. I think it was a slider that was up. So that's what he needs to stay away from. He doesn't have the overwhelming velo to really dominate pitchers in those quadrants of the strike zone. So I definitely think he needs to be low in the zone, and throwing that cutter in and out of the zone for strikes is going to be a key for Castano. But yeah, definitely a better pitcher this year than he was last. That's for sure.
If I could reference not a comp, but another pitcher in this organization that just picked up a cutter kind of out of nowhere and became really good at it, and all of a sudden started actually performing well in the big leagues, it was Zach Thompson last year. Nobody noticed at all when the Marlins signed him as a minor league free agent last spring, and he didn't even pitch well in AAA, just as Castano actually didn't really perform very well in AAA this year. But you call him up, and he leans really heavily into this cutter, even as a guy with below average velo, and historically with like not very good swing and miss stuff. It changes a lot. And it's actually been kind of an in vogue pitch in baseball this year. If you've actually been paying attention to the Yankees, all these guys on the Yankees are throwing cutters that they didn't used to throw before. They sacrifice the velo just to get the movement, and just allows them to pitch inside to batters that previously they were kind of afraid to pitch inside to. So I bring up Thompson because I was high on Thompson last year. I thought what he did in the big leagues was kind of legit, in that he was actually perhaps the biggest piece they gave up in the Stallings trade. And he was up and down with Pittsburgh this year, and now he's hurt. So that's where that comparison ends. I'm just saying that this is kind of a real adjustment. And for all the very valid doubt that we've had about Castano historically, like, this is an adjustment that maybe means something, and maybe will allow him to actually perform in a way that's more sustainable than the past. His performance in the big leagues in the past has not been bad. It's just been it looked so fluky. And now maybe this adjustment to his pitch mix and actually being able to command it, all of a sudden at age 27, maybe he can actually prove to be a valuable up and down guy. Not to say anything more than that. He's part of the team, not a huge piece, but the fact that he might be better than we thought he was.
So small sample aside, 6 games last year versus 4 games this year. Look at this difference with what this pitch has given him, is the ability to get ground ball contact. Last year in his 4 starts, 38.8 ground ball rate. This year it's 51.4. So that's what it's doing for his game, is really giving him the ability to get ground ball outs, which is what a pitcher like this needs to do that doesn't have overwhelming stuff. So yeah, like Eli said, he's not a future cornerstone of any of this rotation, or probably not any rotation, not to knock him, but he definitely has a space and a place, as long as he's throwing consistently and effectively on a major league roster. So yeah, he's definitely a different pitcher than he was last year, and all for the better. So I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him.
So you mentioned the ground ball ratio. Could we say this guy is a little bit of a younger version of Richard Bleier when it comes to ground balls at this point? Because if that's the case, Richard Bleier's contract is over. You keep Castano, and you have another ground ball pitcher right there.
I don't think they're comparable pitchers. Bleier is a very unique pitcher and one who's
he's that unique that we can't even give him a good comparison. But I think Castano with his start, I think I don't have the pitching I don't have the percentages on me right now, but I know he relied off another pitch. I think it was one of the 2 off-speed pitches that he pitches all off-speed, but he relied off a pitch that he did not use in 2021 as much. And I did the recap, and I should know this. But anyways, he made adjustments, and they worked. And let's see if he adjusts again or does what he did in that amazing start against Philly and just keeps it up. Because if he does, he earns himself another start. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Prediction time.
Prediction time.
I don't know. Do we have anything else that we want to throw in here? We have a few more minutes.
We have 5 minutes.
We could do sort of that, not to steal just based with that not gambling advice for Daniel Castano, 2.5 Ks. 2.5 Ks.
We're not doing.
I think that's a safe over. For any.
Okay. Let me double check this. I believe this is the start of a Rockies road trip, right? And so I guess one thing people should be aware of is this historical trend of the Rockies sucking the first game of a road trip because of obviously the other way around. When you play in the high altitude and the different atmosphere, the pitches move differently in the hitter's favor. In that first game, it's no matter how long you play with the Rockies, it's always an adjustment going back on the road again. And of course, here going into a very controlled situation inside a dome, that historically, this is why they hit very poorly in their first game going back. And there may be some reason to believe that they will swing and miss, that they'll have a hard time just syncing their bats up to pitches in this first game, especially. So perhaps you said it's really 2.5 strikeouts for Castano. That's the over-under today. Yeah, I would lean towards the over for that, but that's not gambling advice.
So something to mention.
We're not ripping off just baseball.
We're not. But you know what? This is gambling advice. If you want to take $5, put it minus or over 2.5 strikeouts for Daniel Castano. He's got a couple lefties in there. He struck out 4 guys his last time out. But yeah, that seems to be a good
big news, guys. The ice cream machine has been activated off the injured list.
Yes. Oh my God! Thank God. That thing's been gone for like 2 months.
Waiting for. Something to mention on Colorado. This team is pretty good offensively. They're actually tied for the league lead in batting average with the New York Mets, who the Marlins just faced at 261 as a team. They also are slugging .400, which, of course, there's the Coors effect probably playing into that, but still pretty good. And then on the pitching side, they're egregiously bad, like really bad on pitching. They have a team ERA of almost 5. So, yeah, this series is going to be about slowing down their offense and keeping it in check because it is good. And then it's going to be about getting to their pitching early and often. With this Marlins lineup tonight, can they do it? Questionable. But we'll see how they do for the 3-game series.
All right. Before we get into predictions, there is one person that we haven't mentioned, Anthony Bass. The 7th inning masterclass continues to impress. All right. Prediction time. We'll start with Kevin. Kevin, give us your series MVP and your series prediction.
So what do we have? Castano,
Pablo Lopez, and Braxton Garrett.
Chad Cole's been pretty good this year. 3.69.
Make your prediction.
Actually,
no, we have enough time for you to stall. Keep going.
No, we have 10 minutes. I'm gonna go Marlins take 2 out of 3. I'll say they lose tonight. I don't know why, but I think Ryan Feltner is gonna be one of those guys who's just gonna kill the Marlins, especially after what he did in Colorado, and they'll win the next 2. And series MVP, I'll go Garrett Cooper. Let's play it safe. The guy's been so damn good. He deserves an all-star spot as a reserve. I won't stop saying that, and Garrett Cooper's my MVP.
Eli.
I am going as well with the Marlins winning 2 out of 3. I think they're going to win the first 2, and then at the very end, when you just feel like they could really use a sweep, but they're going to come up short in that last one. But winning 2 out of 3, let me double check. I think I'm going with Pablo Lopez as my series MVP.
I think the first time that someone's chosen Pablo.
Yeah,
I believe that
the
first time.
He is going to bounce back from what was one of his worst starts of the season. I still believe in him very much to kind of almost lock up his spot as like a reserve on the All-Star team because he's pretty great. He's pretty great. Don't get distracted by recent struggles.
Alex.
Yeah, so this is kind of, I mean, it's two similar teams. Honestly, I think they match up pretty closely with each other, the Rockies and Marlins. Both teams have had their struggles on offense, as we know. Both teams have had their struggles in pitching. We know that as well. No, I'm not going to go with the Marlins sweep for that commenter, but I think tonight is definitely going to be a loss with this lineup that's coming out. And then with Castano, you never know where you're going to get, even though we just talked really good about him, and I do like the pitcher he's become. You never know where you're going to get control-wise, and this team hits, like I just said before. So I'll say they lose tonight. They pick up the win with Pablo tomorrow, and then they lose the last game of the series and go 1-2. So that'll be my prediction here. And for MVP, I mean, I'm going to go with an interesting pick that maybe none of you guys would have expected me to say. But all this player does is hit for batting average, and he does it in big spots. Jonathan Daza is my pick for MVP for this series.
Yeah, he's been pretty good.
All right. Isaac?
I'm going to say the Marlins sweep. I think they're going into Friday with Sandy on the mound against the New York Mets. I think they need a sweep. They have two of their Jesus's back. This isn't a great Rockies team. Braxton and Daniel, sort of scare me a little bit, but I think they're going to have good starts, each of them. And Pablo, with like Eli said, he'll have a great start coming back off one of his worst ones. My MVP will be John Birdie. I think he's going to be playing in all 3 games this series. I think he's going to be stealing bases. I think he's going to have a lot of at-bats in critical situations. And I think he will be the leader and win probability added at the end of the series.
Okay, you know what, Isaac, you didn't have to like directly steal my exact predictions.
I didn't know. Sorry.
I was going to go with a sweep. I'm still going to go with a sweep.
Isaac went sweep?
Isaac went sweep.
You're confident. All right.
I'm not, but I think they'll sweep.
And I think, honestly... can I do it?
Do it.
Miguel Rojas. I was gonna do Nick Fortes because he might pitch 2 games in this series. He might catch 2 games in this series, but I'll go with Miguel Rojas.
As long as the Rockies don't sweep, one of us will be correct. So there's that.
All right.
Mm-hmm. All right.
1-2. Yikes, bro.
Wow, we are way under time, but there was nothing to talk about.
There was plenty. We still did not go into the Jazz All-Star thing because we were interrupted by finally having a lineup and roster move.
It's so true.
Can I get that up one more time?
Go ahead.
Where again, these are the leading vote getters at each position in the American League and National League in the first phase of All-Star voting. A few surprises. Perhaps Jazz, a very narrow lead ahead of Jeff McNeil and Ozzie Albies. Ozzie having a serious foot injury. He's not going to play until towards the end of the season. So you would think that his support is going to wane down as the roster heats up. Do I have the...
And unfortunately, it'll be kind of the same with Manny because his injury, but he'll still make it.
So here are the leaders here. And then Jeff McNeil is close behind as well. Only about 54,000. And McNeil is offensively... I mean, you can make the argument that McNeil is actually having a better season than Jazz. He's been a really awesome hitter for them. He just had a hamstring scare, and he is day-to-day with that. We'll see if that turns into a real thing or not, but there's a possibility that he actually goes on the IL for a small period of time, just like Jazz did earlier in the year. Outside of that, what's going to be decided here is who moves on to phase 2 of the voting. It's just the top 2 guys in this category. So Jazz just has to finish top 2, and that seems like a virtual lock. It'll almost certainly be him and McNeil, but there's still 9 days to go. It's up through June 30th. And that's when they narrowed it down to those 2 and decide which of the 2. It's a new round of voting, and people just pick head-to-head between the top 2 at each position. No other Marlins are anywhere near the mix to be on the position player side. Garrett Cooper is, what is he? Is he like 9th among DHs, and Aggie is 10th among first basemen?
Mm-hmm.
No, there's no other storylines on the position player side.
It's good that the guys are at least in the top 10.
Out of 15.
Oh, yeah. Never mind.
In their league.
Never mind. No, don't worry about it. That's bad.
Christina Di Nicola answered a question that we asked on a prior show where we were mentioning Jazz potentially getting voted in, and looks good from this early first round of voting results that we're seeing. I was questioning how many Marlins players have been voted into the All-Star game. There have only been 5 in the 29-year tenure of the Marlins franchise. So Jazz Chisholm Jr. with the chance to be the 6th Marlins player voted into the All-Star game. Really cool.
So most of those came in what, 2016 when it was, or was that 2017 with AJ Ramos?
I'm sure Gary Sheffield was one of them.
Well, Sheffield was voted, but in 1994 or 3, but it was
they didn't have that. I don't think they. Oh no, they did. Never mind. Correct. Forget me. You're right. They have had. I was thinking of the final vote. They used to have the. Do they still do that? The final vote with the very last roster spot. I don't know.
I forgot about the final vote.
I think they got rid of that.
I think they're doing like a whole like 3-stage thing, right? I think they're doing multiple rounds.
I remember who was I think Justin Bohr was the main final vote guy for Miami in 2017. He was in the Derby and he lost the final vote, but at least
that was a tough Derby.
Derby was awesome.
Yeah, the donut.
That was awesome.
Well, this one will be in Dodger Stadium, and so that's less than a month away.
And if Sandy starts, he may get blown up in that start. You never know.
Because we have little faith.
No,
all right. We've got games happening soon-ish, I think.
14
We've
minutes.
got a weird lineup for Isaac, for Eli, for Alex, for Kevin, for Brent and Daniel in the press box. I'm your host, Noah Berger. We will be back later on this week.
Why bother with empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket? With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show in your pocket.